Hi, I am Troy.
I'm Morgan Bradford.
Brady.
And I'm McKaylee Farr.
And we are doing our podcast on Here by Philip Larkin. Swerving east from rich industrial shadows in traffic all night north, swerving through fields too thin and thistled to be called meadows, and now and then a harsh named halt that shields workmen at dawn, swerving to solitude of skies and scarecrows, haystacks, hares, and pheasants, and the widening river's slow presence, the piled gold clouds in shining gull-marked mud, gathers to the surprise of a large town. Here domes and statues, spires and cranes cluster besides grain-scattered streets. Barge-crowded water and residents from raw estates brought down the dead straight miles by stealing flat-faced trolleys, push through the plate-glass swing doors to their desires. Cheap suits, red kitchenware, sharp shoes, iced lollies, electric mixers, toasters, washers, dryers. A cut-price crowd, urban yet simple, dwelling where only salesmen and relations come, within a terminate and fishy-smelling pastoral of ships up streets. The slave museum, tattoo shops, consulates, grim head-scarfed wives, and out beyond its mortgaged half-built edges, vast-shadowed wheat fields running high as hedges, isolate village where removed lives. Loneliness clarifies, here silence stands like heat. Here leaves unnoticed thicken, hidden weeds flower, neglected waters quicken, luminously peopled air ascends, and past the poppy's bluish neutral distance ends the land suddenly beyond a beach, of shapes and shingle. Here is unfenced existence, facing the sun, untalkative, out of reach.
What do you think this poem is involved, or what is this poem about?
I think Larkin is describing the simplicity of the country versus the busy kind of
Gritty feel of the city.
yeah, it's like it's clustered, more clustered feeling than the rural.
Yeah, I would agree, Brady.
I really don't think he likes the city because in the third stanza he says that the city is fishy smelling, slave museums, half-built edges, running high on edges, and removed lives.
It's kind of chastising the way that the city is kind of greedy, always looking for more, whereas the country is simple, goes about its business in a way that it's satisfied, it's content out there.
I also noticed that in the last stanza, he starts talking about the country, and although he does say that it's quite busy in the country, it's in a way that has a purpose. Like, instead of the city being this useless material busyness, the busyness is for work, and it's necessary.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna throw out so it's unnecessary, and then you finish your sentence. I'm like, oh, okay. I have a question. Why read this poem? What is the purpose of this poem? What do you think the author's purpose is?
I think he's expressing that it's more important to focus on what is necessary to you rather than waste your time with material things. I mean, they're good to have, they're fun to have, but to focus on the necessities and what needs to be done in order to have genuine self-happiness and accomplishment is what important.
Yeah. And when you mention materialism, that made me think of line 15 in the second stanza, going on about cheap suits, red kitchenware, sharp shoes. That made me think about how the 40s, I'm pretty sure it's the 40s, where new technology of this sort was starting to be released. And basically, it had this keeping up with the Joneses-esque to it. It was just oh, my neighbor has a red refrigerator. I need one of those. It's oh, they have a new radio. Those new, things that allow us to hear what's going on in the world. I need one of those because my neighbor has one. So it has that kind of I just thought it was a cool reference.
And I think in the country he's kind of expressing there wasn't that feeling of keeping up with the Joneses. You didn't need the newest fridge.
Yeah.
You didn't need the newest transistor radio to keep up with your neighbors. What you had was enough to keep you content.
Yeah, it was more about what keeps you satisfied and keeps you going, other than what other people need to keep themselves happy.
One thing I also noticed about the country, I just thought of this, was that in the last stanza, when he's talking about the countryside, he kind of rhymes, which gives it a more almost smooth flowing way. Like he says, thicken and quicken and stuff along that line. And that kind of goes with how the country is just smoother and less rough and gritty than the city.
Yeah, he does that in the first stanza too. I think he rhymes more when he's talking about the country because it's more of it's like you said, it's more of that smooth, like flowy feeling, more like easygoing, like go with the flow. And when he's in the city, it's more of a
Yeah, the city's
crowded,
more,
cluttered.
and the
place.
city's more fast paced as compared to the like what you said, the slow, easy living of the country. So is there any questions any of you had on the poem? Any of you?
I was kind of curious as to how the title fit in because he's in like
Here.
multiple places, but he's talking about here. So
Well-
Maybe he's talking about here as in the stanza, that specific paragraph. It's talking about that specific location.
Okay, well, that's great. That's about all the time we've got. So there we go.